Hello all, it's time to catch up on the weekly proceedings here at Stocks Reservoir, and what a week it's been. Starting with last Thursday, the 18th of April, we welcomed Ashley Robertson and his combined CSC and Hazra competition, and 17 anglers took to the water to try and come in the top three and represent the northwest of England in their national final. The top two anglers came from the same boat, and they were Gavin Murray and Stuart Halford. Gavin had 18 fish, including a great big brownie that unfortunately came after he'd taken his limit, so that had to go back, and Stuart with 16 fish. They were fishing SSI lines with hothead damsels, mainly along here across the top of the northern shallows, such a productive area at this time of year, and on slow sinking intermediates, that's SSI lines. In third place, we had George Ashton, just one fish behind Stuart with 15 fish. I'm pretty sure George was doing a similar sort of thing. The best fish went to the competition organiser, Ashley Robertson, a cracking £9 rainbow that was put on the scales. I'll just show you a couple of pictures here of the three winners, Ashley's fish and Gavin's brownie. A nice picture of Gavin's chin there, and you may have noticed that even though I haven't been out fishing this week, I did manage to lose a mullet at the back there. Was good on the bank as well on the Thursday. Alan Daniels caught 9 fish. He put 5 on the scales for £13. He caught on a white nomad along Ben's Beach. And then we go on to Friday. Now it gets difficult on Friday and Saturday because a lot of people were practicing for the England qualifier that was to be held on Sunday. So although there was lots of fish being caught, getting information on exact numbers and methods and everything was pretty tricky. So I'm going to be a little bit sketchy about Friday and Saturday. I can tell you that there were some cricket scores. Andy Axon and Matt Nuttall did have about 40-ish fish to their boat, I know that. I think Andy Campbell and John Brown weren't far behind. These guys were pulling lures, not sure exactly what, but pulling lures on intermediate lines all over the reservoir. And Ian Gaskell and Bob Fitz, they had 30 to their boat as well on this day, on the washing line on various dial backets, crunchers and boobies. And Peter Crow too, he was another puller, I believe, pulling on intermediate lines, getting up into a high cricket scores. It was good on the shore as well. We saw Graham Carruthers, he had 15 rainbows whilst fishing along Ben's Beach, along here, just up from Bell Point there. He caught 15 fish on a black tadpole, fished on an intermediate line. And Simon Dodd caught this cracking £7 rainbow on a hothead damsel down in Barn Quarry. Cracking fish there, well done. Now as I say, Saturday was sketchy as well, but we did have a little bit of information. Father and son team, John and James Atkinson, had 21 fish to their boat. I think James found, or the son James found, a method there of fishing a midge-tip line with a combination of cormorants and crunchers, and they were drifting right across from the east bank, right past the south end of Gull Island here, into New Close and all the way across into the Eking Shallows, and they just kept their distance from other boats, trying to make sure that they were covering clean water that hadn't been drifted. What I'm missing out from this story here is the absolutely immense hatch of beetles that we were having at this time. There were beetles everywhere. Largely they were heather beetles, but there were other species amongst them as well, and they littered the water. I reckon you could throw a 1 metre quadra out onto that water, and in any one time you'd pick up 10, 12 beetles floating on the surface. And it seemed like just about every fish in the reservoir was up feeding on them. I had so many people commenting to me that I must have stocked far more fish this season than other seasons. It's not true, they were just all up and feeding. Look at this spoon that came out of one fish. And that wasn't a selected fish, that was standard. You could take any fish over the weekend, spoon it, and you were going to get a similar sort of picture. They were preoccupied with them. And this is why there was a couple of frustrated fishermen chucking at rising fish that were totally ignoring them. But there were a few methods that started to come out that you could actually catch these fish, because these beetles don't float forever. They do break through the surface tension and they start to sink. So washing lining with cormorants and dowelbacks subsurface started to produce some good goats, as James Atkinson had found on Saturday, as did pulling boobies through the surface and pulling them fast, making sure you were stimulating those fish so much that they could tear them away from these beetles that were everywhere. So both methods had a part to play. And on Sunday, we had the England qualifier. And it was really interesting because we had one boat head off down towards the dam, whilst the other 13 boats in the competition all headed north, up towards Curry's Cast, New Close, Gull Island, Willow Island, the Northern Shallows, that whole northern end of the reservoir where so many fish have been seen feeding the day before. And I have to say, in that one boat that went down to the dam was Ben Race. And Ben Race ended up winner on the day. He caught 22 fish. Such a good effort. He had maybe fewer fish, but he had all those fish to himself. He drifted from the dam all the way into the alders and up the alders, up 10 Acre Foot, all the way along this edge here, right up towards Halstead's Hike. He was finding that he was catching really well on an intermediate line with a sunburst blob on his top dropper, couple of crunchers on his middle dropper, and a white booby on the point. And when fishing got hard a little bit later on, he had about 12 dozen fish in his bag. He stopped catching, so he changed his line to a die 3 sweep, kept exactly, die 5 sweep, I apologise, kept exactly the same cast of flies on, and immediately started catching again. I think that's a really good tip. That's something I've seen before. Just dropped it down in the water, fished the same areas on a different level, and started to continue to catch. That was awesome angling, Ben. Well done. So that was Ben Race taking first place with 22 fish. Neil Hodgson at the other end, top of the pile with 16 trout. I'm not entirely sure how he was fishing. In third place was Andy Campbell, who fished a fast glass with a sunburst blob on the top dropper, similar cat boobies on the point. Again, similar methods there to Ben. Mark Howard came fourth. Ian Gaskell in fifth place with 14 fish. It fished so well, 10.39 rod average across 28 anglers. Really, really good fishing. He caught on an olive booby on a die 3 sweep, and just like Ben, he altered his depth throughout the day. When he stopped catching high up, he'd twiddle it down maybe 10, 15, then carry on his retrieve, getting those flies and getting that sweet line to work in that way, and he started to catch again a little bit deeper down. Derek Moore in 6th place, and Peter Crow came 7th. All those guys have got through to the national final and a really good chance of getting on next year's England team. So well done, fellas. Awesome stuff. And it wasn't just all about the match either. Outside the match, we had another father and son team, Darren Barlow and his son Daniel. They had 22 fish on buzzers, and Daniel caught a new PB with this cracking 7-pound rainbow. On the 22nd, again, easterly winds, far fewer anglers on the water now, but still plenty around. It was Easter Monday, of course, a bank holiday. The top guy on the boats was Bob Fitzpatrick, who fished nymphs on a floating line to take 11 fish. Mark Tyndall and Bob Kowalski had 16 fish to their boat, pulling various lures. And on the bank, Jeff Marsden used a sink tip to catch 12 fish from New Close Bay and the Eking Shallows there. So still fishing really well. And likewise, on Tuesday the 23rd, David Manning took 10 fish on the washing line, all from around Willow Island and that area. And John Sykes fished cormorants on the washing line and took his method all around the reservoir to take 9 fish. So again, fantastic angling. And on the shore, Richard Windsor took 9 fish from the alders down at the dam there on boobies. So well done, all on a cat booby there for Richard Windsor. 24th, Derek Moore and Felicity Appleton out in their boat fishing the drift all day. They had 17 fish. First of all, it was pulling on a fast glass with boobies, and then right towards the end they switched to dries and topped up their score all on the dries, fish taking them off the top. Great angling. Sean Gaskell had a personal tally of 21 fish. Awesome score. Roly-polying boobies and blobs on an intermediate line. Again, pulling those fish away from what they've been catching on. What they're feeding on, sorry. And that brings us up to today. And today we had just 2 boats out. And these guys were in the flat upstairs. We had Bill Menzies and Alex Richmond. They had 31 trout to their boat today, including a cracking brownie. And we had David Donaldson and Ernie Greenhouse, who had 41 fish to their boat. These are cricket scores. The 4 anglers taking 72 fish between them. Amazing stuff. They caught on a variety of things, but floating lines, red-arsed green peters, hot-headed grizzle cats caught well, hot-headed damsels. Again, they have been so consistent over this last week. And Ernie also caught a cracking near double figure rainbow with a red tag next to its dorsal fin. Now, had he entered the tag fish competition, well, I don't really want to tell him what it would have been worth, but about 300 quid. Okay, so he put it back to swim another day, so well done, mate, and unlucky. Next time. On the shore, it was a good day as well. Matt Turner had 14 fish, fishing from Granger Point again to Hartley's. That area been so productive, and he caught on a floating line and black and green tadpoles. The weekly rod average from boat and bank, from everybody visiting on half days and full days all combined, has been 7.25. Amazing rod averages. So it finishes with this afternoon. This afternoon we had the Loud and Hodder Angling Association fishing for their Chairman's Cup. And 8 anglers turned out, and they got off to a great start, but it got proceedings sort of finished early with big rumbles of thunder and a few flashes of lightning. So they stopped a little bit earlier than they ought to have done. But I'll leave you with a picture of last year's winner, Keith Ogden, handing over the trophy to Adam Cooper, who caught 6 fish on olive boobies fished on a midge tip. Cheers.